Hi again, on our island where nothing is added anymore. Our CO2 budget in emissions before we cross the 1.5 degree is very low. And if we recalculate that for the Netherlands, it's only 0.15 gigatons for 1.5 degree and 0.5 gigatons for 2 degrees before we have the 1.5 or 2 degree limit out of sight. As we saw in the previous presentation, it's even not enough to retrofit all houses to zero energy. Already then we need more than the budget we have. But that's not the only thing. There is also a time component which is not addressed yet. So if we put it in a graph, then we see this is year 1 to 30 and on, and this is the gigaton CO2 emissions. 0.2, 0.4, 0.6. This is the budget for the housing sector, 0.75, and this is the budget for the 2 degree in the housing sector, which is 0.5. Now, if we don't do anything, do not retrofit houses, then the houses of course cause CO2 emissions by heating, etc. And this is the accumulated curve of all houses in the Netherlands, and you see it goes steep up and it crosses the 1.5 degree budget after 4.5 years and the 2 degree budget after 14 years or so. Okay, we start retrofitting houses, let's say 100,000 a year, and we have 7 million, so it will take to 2090 before we are ready, but anyway, 100,000 is already a lot. And then this is the curve of all CO2 emissions then from the housing sector. Not from the retrofitted houses of course, but these are the emissions from the still not retrofitted houses, which is only decreasing very slowly with 100,000 a year. And you see that we pass the budgets only slightly later, you know, here it's a year later, here it's 3 years later. So you see, and it takes even more years before the curve is flattened and doesn't emit any CO2 emissions anymore. This is not all, this is only from operational energy. Of course, retrofitting the houses cost materials, which cost CO2 emissions in production. It's the blue line, and if we add that, then we get the red line here. This is the accumulated emissions from operational and embodied energy of the housing sector while they are being renovated at a slow speed of 100,000 a year. And you see, that doesn't help us a lot. We won't get there if we do 100,000 houses a year, even not with 200,000 houses a year, which would be a major effort, and I don't see it happen. I think to stay below the 2 degree line takes about 600,000 a year. It's undoable. So what does this learn us? That it's all about accumulated CO2 emissions. It's not about a one house approach. One house will score better, you know, it will be zero operational energy after retrofit, and it will of course have regained the embodied energy after say 5, 6, 7 years of reduced operational energy emissions. It has been compensated and it's net zero CO2 emissions. But that's one house, but for the stock the calculations are different. So we should calculate accumulated CO2 emissions over the total stock and process them in time to see the real consequences of what we are doing, which shows that we have to minimize material investments and adapt lifestyles to stay within budgets. And that's why, you know, we can't do it the same way we would like to do it. We have to find another way, which I call, for instance, a summer-winter house, where we don't insulate the whole house as if it freezes all year round, 365 days. It's only a few weeks a year, and we only partially insulate the house, and we heat only a part of the house, which reduces enormously the amount of materials to invest and reduces the energy demand for operations, of course, also a lot, because we just use part of the house in the coldest period, which is called living with the seasons. It's also very handy because then we don't have to build all wind turbines and solar panels to accommodate for winter energy demand that will be reduced a lot, etc., etc. So accumulated CO2 emissions for the whole stock and over time is what we should address and see how we then can cope with the budgets that we have. Thank you very much.